I feel like the game coming up, obviously that we're previewing now, Zrinski Mostar away, it's kind of put into perspective just how good of a season we're having for me, because last week to beat Manchester City and Arsenal 1-0 back-to-back at home, to be third in the Premier League, only 2 or 3 points off first place, which is just absolutely ridiculous. To do that all whilst juggling a European campaign in which we're the top of the group and have the chance to finish top as well, should we beat Zrinski, or better the Legia result. I guess Alkmaar as well, I think they're tied on points. That, like, we're having an amazing time, and it's kind of put it into perspective for me, because, you know, I remember coming on here like 2 months ago and we're talking about how brilliant Ange and Spurs are and like what a breath of fresh air they're having, and I think, you know, they kind of went 3 or 4 games losing on the bounce, didn't they? They got a very good result against a very dilapidated Newcastle, and yeah, it's just kind of put it into perspective for me, because all the shouts after 6, 7, 8 games were big Ange's, you know, he's winning the league in his first season, he's going to be one of the few managers who's managed to do that. All of a sudden Spurs are almost not even in the top 4 race, it seems. The sort of the dialogue has been, I'm pretty confident that Spurs will get 4th, if I'm being completely honest, but it's funny how the narrative has sort of flipped, and we're now here like just having a great time, mate, having a great time. And I think it's important that, you know, there'll be so many people who watch this, and we get this in the TikTok comments all the time, that, you know, that's probably the one place where we get so many opposing fans, just because, you know, it's so easy to reach people on TikTok. And they're always sort of like, sit down, humble yourself, won't be top 4, you're not in the title race, this and that. But like, football is about like living in the moment, and the moment that we're in right now. And, you know, before we came on air, the journey you said that we've been on, and us doing all these podcasts in the Championship, and then like our biggest week, arguably, as Villa fans on this journey we've been on, you know, it's unfortunate we couldn't do it together. Like, we just got to enjoy the ride that we're on. And like, football's about dreaming, isn't it? And, you know, we're in this very unique position right now. Is it sustainable? Who knows? But, you know, we're in a Premier League title race as it stands. We're top in our European group, which again, albeit Newcastle are in a much harder competition in the Champions League, we're starting to see the effects that that's having on their squad. We're managing this so well, and we should just like live in the moment and dare to dream, mate, shouldn't we?
Mate, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing that I think we have to give Ange credit for, in that, you know, he's one of the only managers really that I've ever seen, really, you know, at the start of the season where Spurs were top of the league. He was getting a lot of questions from reporters like, oh, hey, like, you know, were you going to tell, what was your thoughts? Are you in a title race? Like, what would your message to the fans be? Are you going to tell them to lower expectations and just try and stay level-headed? And he was like, no, absolutely not. This is what being a football fan is all about. If you can't get excited by these things, and you can't dream when your side is top of the league after 10 games or whatever it was, they were unbeaten, then what's the point? What's the point? And, you know, Unai got asked a very similar question after the Arsenal game, and he did kind of play it down, and was quick to sort of say that, you know, one step at a time, and for now the main priority is, you know, staying in European football and everything like that. And so we kind of have to take things, as you say, mate, step by step, but that's not to say that we can't get excited and that we can't enjoy this. And it's very interesting in that the time that you have been away, the narrative around Villa has really changed. It's just the first week where we were kind of going about, outside of the Villa sphere, going out our business quite quietly.
Yeah.
It felt like before this we were creeping up the table. There wasn't a lot of chatter about Villa. I think Villa fans have been doing a good job when people started talking about us, being like, no, keep it quiet, don't say anything. You know, we were very quietly going under the radar. And I think as a fan base, we were very happy with that, because you and I have both spoken about that. As soon as you get on people's radar, all of a sudden the rumours about players wanting to leave comes out. Like, you know, we've spoken about whether clubs would start, or reports, I should say, would come about essentially clubs sniffing around for Unai and everything like that. And so the more that you can go under the radar, the better. But, you know, when you get 6 points against Arsenal and City, that definitely changes. And so that's been really interesting, in that all of a sudden the narrative kind of before you went was, oh, could Villa really get Champions League? And it's interesting that given the performance of clubs in the Champions League currently, and the fact it was looking almost unlikely that the 5th coefficient spot for the Champions League would go to England. I think I saw an article yesterday saying that at the moment it would go to Germany based on how those clubs are performing in Europe. And it looks like it could really hinge on how Newcastle do and whether they get through to the knockout stages of the Champions League as to whether that spot will fall to the Premier League. So it could be the traditional top four getting Champions League after all. So I think that needs to be where Villa set their sights. I think there will be a kind of a drop-off at some point in the season, but I don't think we're going to really go on and challenge for the title, but nor should we. I think that's important to stay. We are ahead of schedule. The most important thing is the Conference League. I still maintain that getting into the Europa League is the main priority. And just maintaining that slowly we step up the rungs of the European football ladder. But I think we're doing a magnificent job. And as you said, mate, at the moment, all you got to do is enjoy it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think the article that you referenced, I think it requires us to also finish second for us to get the fifth coefficient spot for the Premier League. So that's quite the task. But it's funny because, you know, when we were sort of looking, you know, quite far ahead to these games that have just happened, you know, after the sort of great run of games that we'd had, and we were going, listen, you know, we've got Bournemouth away, we've got Spurs away, we've got City and Arsenal. We were saying, and it's a big if, you get results against them, you're in a title race. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that how it's transpired. And I also think it's probably time for us to take a look back at that Bournemouth result. We tied a super team. It's got to Old Trafford and won 3-0. They've been bloody brilliant. So, you know, I got a lot of stick for saying that was a good point. And hindsight is, of course, 2020. But they're absolutely fine at the moment. And I think
absolutely
the thing is, we've sort of where we're at right now with Europe, with the race for Champions League, Europa League, whatever that may be. Like, it's just all about, like, all you can do. And I think, like, the way Unai has approached it up until very recently has been the exact way you'd expect, is taking it game by game. And it's kind of like, you see that both at the top and at the bottom, right? With relegation battles and with title charges and whatnot. You see managers all the time say, listen, we're just trying to win up the next game, this and that, blah. And it's funny because I think, you know, after the Arsenal game, that is probably one of the first times where Unai almost didn't fully but recognised the position that we're in. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was like, yeah, obviously, like, we're kind of in a title race, but, like, we're not. He's not done that before, and the players are really starting to believe as well. And I think when you look at the comments from Emi Martinez over the past 18 months, Ezri Konsa spoke recently as well, and you look at sort of Emi sort of fist bumping the whole and everything, like, they believe. There is a genuine belief within this squad, and I keep seeing there are amazing clips people keep posting on Twitter of, like, zoomed in versions of, like, players, like, celebrating, like, by themselves, like when we score or whatever. Like, I think it was when Bailey scored against City, you've got Ezri and Diego just falling to their knees, and, like, as if they can't believe it's happened. Like, their wildest dreams are coming true. And, like, when you see that from the players, and when you see that the belief within the stands and from the fans online and everything, like, why can't we? Like, I think the closest comparison is, like, doing a Leicester, isn't it? And I saw someone say the other day, oh, it's different though because Villa don't have the same star power. And I was like, hold the fuck on. Hold on. Leiciter's players became stars because they won the Premier League.
Absolutely.
They plucked Riyad Mahrez from Le Havre in Ligue 2. N'Golo Kante the same. Danny Drinkwater was a Manchester United reject. Jamie Vardy was a mercenary in the lower leagues. There was Mark Albrighton, you know, I don't want to say Aston Villa reject, he definitely wasn't, but, you know, a team discarded from a Premier League team. This was by no means, Kasper Schmeichel as well, passed around the lower leagues, didn't make the cut at Manchester City where he came through. The Leicester team became superstars because they won the Premier League. We have a World Cup winning goalkeeper. We have a Europa League winning centre-half, two of them actually. We've got a fullback that's played for three of Europe's most biggest and historic clubs. You know, Douglas Luiz, Manchester City. Boubacar Kamara, one of Europe's most highly sought-after defensive midfielders. Like, need I go on? Like, there's so much star power in this team, and there's so much ability, and there's so much potential as well. Why can't we challenge? Why can't we do that? This isn't. We're not the new Leicester. We're the current Aston Villa.